adopted children threw her out, and stole her house. Unaware she already sold it for $100 million. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us share more powerful stories. Now, let's begin. For 25 years, Marjorie Ellis had moved through her home like a quiet clock. Every wall held the print of her steady hands. Every corner carried the trace of her sacrifice. She painted the baseboards herself when money was too tight to hire anyone. She sewed curtains at night by the glow of a single lamp. She knew which stair creaked when a child tried sneaking in after curfew, and which window refused to open in the summer heat. Each morning, long before dawn, she tied her headscarf, put the kettle on, and let the hiss of boiling water greet the day. The tiles under her feet were scrubbed, so often they shone faintly, even in the half-light. It wasn't wealth that kept the home standing. It was her determination. When Darius and Selena arrived as children, thin and weary from their father's abandonment, it was Marjorie who stitched their lives back together. She fed them, tucked them into clean sheets, and worked 2 jobs so that their school fees didn't bounce. She carried their doctor's bills, their field trip expenses, and their heartbreaks. And yet, as the years rolled on, love grew crowded by something darker, entitlement in the air. The first signs were small. Darius leaving dirty dishes piled in the sink, Selena slamming doors when Marjorie asked about her grades. Later came secret phone calls, cold stares, and laughter that felt sharp as broken glass. Neighbors whispered, as neighbors always do. Mrs. Patel once told Gloria, "She looks so tired these days." Gloria sighed, or maybe she's just too proud. Kids don't like when parents act stronger than them. The words floated across the hibiscus hedge and settled on Marjorie's shoulders like ash. She didn't reply. She kept sweeping her walkway, adjusting her cardigan and moving forward. That's what survivors did. They moved. But by late spring, the house itself felt different. Heavy, like the walls were listening to plans whispered after midnight. Marjorie had always been sensitive to such things. She could feel a storm before the first crack of thunder. And she felt one building now. The sky was pale and bright when it happened. Marjorie noticed papers stacked on the console table in the hallway. Too neat, too smug. She didn't touch them. Instead, she straightened the crooked picture frame of her children at a debate tournament years ago. Even then, she noticed the tiniest slant in the nail. Later that afternoon, she stepped outside with just a small bag. The gate clicked shut behind her, metal on metal. Neighbors peeked from porches and gates. Some pitied her, some whispered. "They're pushing her out," Mrs. Patel murmured. "Old people never let go of their keys," Gloria replied. But Marjorie didn't argue. She didn't beg. She smoothed a crease in her skirt, adjusted her bag strap, and walked away with silence stronger than any words. Inside, her children celebrated. Darius waved forth property deeds in the air like winning lottery tickets. Selena laughed too loud, earrings swinging. They believed they had conquered their mother and her house. What they didn't know was that the very game they thought they had won had already ended. That night, Marjorie lay awake in the dark, through the thin vent above her room. She heard Darius muttering, his voice stripped of all boyhood softness. "If she doesn't sign, we'll have to deal with her." Selena's reply was colder still. "She always drags her feet. We can't let her ruin this for us." The words pressed into Marjorie's chest like knives. These were her children. The same children she once rocked through fevered nights, who clung to her skirt when afraid. Now they were plotting her removal, maybe worse. But she didn't cry. She rose, ran the faucet so it just covered her silence, and looked into the mirror. The face staring back at her was lined, yes, but steady, unshakable. The kind of steady storms couldn't move. The next day at noon, she called Harold Vance, her lawyer. "Sell the house," she said evenly. "Every brick, every hinge." Quietly, within a week, the sale was complete. Official, legal, irrevocable, and not a whisper of it reached her children. For months, Darius and Selena strutted through the house like royalty. Darius paraded keys, bragging to neighbors. Selena threw loud parties, her laughter spilling through the windows. To the street, it looked like they had triumphed. Marjorie, however, carried herself with quiet grace. She tended her garden roses, brewed tea, and observed. Like a chess player, she watched pawns march themselves toward checkmate. The counterfeit deeds Darius discovered in her cabinet only confirmed his arrogance. He believed he'd outsmarted her, not realizing she had planted a decoy for him to find. Every empire built on lies eventually collapses under its own weight, and Marjorie was patient enough to wait. The reckoning came on a sweltering afternoon. 2 black SUVs rolled to a stop outside the house. Neighbors paused. Children stilled their play. Mrs. Patel and Gloria leaned over the hedge. Men in dark suits stepped out, carrying clipboards and stamped documents. One raised his voice so all could hear. "We're here regarding property ownership and fraud allegations." The street gasped. Darius stumbled, dropping a glass that shattered on the porch. Selena rushed downstairs, trying to smile. There must be some mistake. But the officials weren't swayed. They laid the forged papers across the hood of the car, pointing out mismatched seals, copied signatures, altered dates. Behind them stormed Victor Crane, the furious buyer who had been duped. He waved the fake deed like a weapon. "You lied to me. I paid for a house that was never yours to sell." The neighbors shook their heads. "Didn't I say it?" Gloria muttered. "Greed always eats its own." By now, the crowd outside had swelled. The whole street watched as handcuffs clicked around Darius and Selena's wrists. Their excuses poured out fast, desperate, but no one believed them. Through it all, Marjorie stood quietly across the road, shawl wrapped around her shoulders. When her daughter's panicked eyes found hers, Marjorie did not gloat. She did not smirk. She only met her gaze with the calm certainty of a woman who had already mourned her children's betrayal. The SUVs pulled away, leaving behind the echo of slammed doors and whispers of shame. Mrs. Patel spoke what everyone was thinking. They thought they threw her away. Turns out they threw themselves in prison. The house no longer belonged to Marjorie, and that was fine. She rented a modest flat above a spice shop. The air there smelled of nutmeg and fresh cotton. Every evening she sat by the window with her tea, free of slammed doors, free of whispers plotting her downfall. Weeks later, Harold Vance called, cheerful. "The money from the sale cleared. It's all secure, Marjorie. You're safe." Safe. The word tasted better than wine. At the market, neighbors whispered differently now. "Look at her," one said. "She's stronger than before." "Sometimes losing a house means gaining yourself," the other replied. Marjorie began investing carefully. A small partnership here, a stake in a company there. The very people who once overlooked her now admired her steady resolve. Her children's names faded into court records and prison whispers. Their downfall wasn't hers to celebrate. It was theirs to carry. And so the story closed where many thought it would break. Not in defeat, but in quiet triumph. Marjorie Ellis had been pushed out her own house, yes, but she had already walked away into a life they could never touch. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Because sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers, waits, and then arrives at your gate in black SUVs. And that's the lesson. Betrayal may strike hardest in the people you raise, but foresight and patience can turn their greed into their downfall. If this story kept you watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because here, every story reminds us, justice always finds its way home.